We also have with us this morning the Chief Director at the Ministry of Public Enterprises, Madam Christina Edmond. We also have with us our boss here at the Ministry of Information, our Chief Director, Mrs. Morgan Esiedu, joining us this morning. And as I mentioned earlier, we have with us the Minister for Public Enterprises, who is also MP for the good people of Efia constituency, Honorable Joseph Kudjo. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now invite Honorable Minister for his presentation, and then we'll come back to you for the Q&A session.
I suppose somebody is going through the PowerPoint. Who is it, so that I can signal the person? Okay, good morning to you all. I can see everybody is looking happy and excited already. The first slide, as you can see, you see my name, Honorable Joseph Kudjo, MP for Efia constituency and Minister for Public Enterprises. I'm here to have a press briefing with you, and what I'm going to follow through in terms of outline. As you can see, I will introduce you to the mandate of the Public Enterprises Secretariat, which is my mandate, and I will give you an overview of the public enterprises sector. I'll also take you through achievements we've made so far since our inception, give you the way forward, and then we draw some conclusions from the presentation. The introduction. The Public Enterprise Secretariat was established in the year 2021, following my appointment as Minister for Public Enterprises. And my mandate is to oversight SIGA, to in turn oversight the specified entities. And the specified entities, we classify them into three. First, SOEs, which is a term very familiar with us, meaning state-owned enterprises. And there are 53 of them. And then we have JVCs, joint venture companies, which are business ventures in which government have part shareholding and private sector investor would have the rest of the ownership. These JVCs, there are 47 of them. And then we have public operations and regulatory authorities, which are set up by government to provide public services and public goods. And they are those companies you see their names ending with authority, commission, and so on. So for our own observation, we may know of Petroleum Commission, Energy Commission, and then the authorities you may know of National Pensions Regulatory Authority, and so on. And these have been set up to provide services to various sectors of the economy in terms of delivery of public service and public goods. So there are 75 of these in the portfolio. So you can see the portfolio we are looking at the moment, reaching 175. That is 47 plus 53 plus 75, making 175. And this list of enterprises have been published on the SIGA website. So you can go to SIGA website and see the list of the entities in details. But there is another unwritten aspect of the portfolio, which we call defunct entities. Defunct entities, they are those that are not operating. You may typically say they've been run down, and they are also part of government assets. But the mandate is to oversight SIGA, to intend oversight the active enterprises. When we come to the public sector space, we can envisage it as a portfolio of enterprises. Now, if you take the defunct ones and the active ones, 17 defunct as we count on our records now, plus the 175 active, you get 192. And I must say that to get a sense of the size of the portfolio, a 2016 equity holding put government equity means ownership, shares. 2016 record put the equity holding to 35.7 billion, when in fact the GDP of Ghana was just around 230 billion, meaning that government ownership relative to even the GDP was 15%. But in terms of total assets, the specified entities were making up of about a third of the GDP of the country. That is how significant this portfolio is. On the issue of achievement so far, how far we've come, I will structure presentation of the achievement in 3 categories. First, our effort at restructuring the public enterprises portfolio, and next, the improvement in compliance reporting, improvement in transparency, and improvement in accountability we have achieved. And then the final category would be my interaction, or my secretariat's interaction with the specified entities and capacity building efforts we have made so that they can do better. Restructuring of the active companies. At the policy level, decisions have been made on entities that we intend to liquidate. Liquidate means just collapse them. Well, this comes through our study of their current situation, and then making the projection and realizing that they are just siphoning money from government purse and have become liabilities rather than assets. There are some, upon the review, we intend listing them on the stock market because it is possible to get the investing public, Ghanaians, having equity stakes in them. Next corporate action we have planned to undertake as invitation of strategic investors into some of the entities, so that we'll have government sharing ownership with Ghanaian investors who may be interested. And some of them, like I said, the defunct or inactive companies, planned disposal through an appropriate and transparent means to get these liabilities offloaded from government obligations. I will take you through, I know Ghanaians sometimes, or a lot of the times, get so incensed when you talk about divestiture, disposal, and so on of state assets. But I want to appeal to our reasoning in this matter. You look at the pictures that follow in this presentation. Okay, would you call this an asset of government, or you call it a liability of government? When you look at, for example, Aboso Glass Factory, the Central Stores, the first picture on the left, that's Central Stores. What will you store there as a national asset if you get so sensitive about disposal of a national asset. This is what we want to dispose of. You look at the next picture, Bolgatanga Meat Factory, and that is a bungalow. I don't know which professional, in what category of professions will stay in this bungalow and do effective thinking. But that is on the portfolio of assets we are oversighting. You look at Bonsatai Clinic on the left. This is the state now. What kind of healing can you deliver through such a clinic? And then you go to Ghana Consolidated Diamond, which case is currently in court, but the state of the asset. So you are dealing with it for it to be handed over to private sector. And then look at Ghana Food Production Corporation, regional office. This is something sitting on the books of government. And then the next being State Construction, SCC, in Northern Region. More assets. Okay. But the point is that we have these defunct entities which government is taking steps to dispose of them, because the best government is doing now is just incurring costs to take care of it. But people are vandalizing the assets every day, and it's a disturbing situation so far as the public enterprises portfolio is concerned. So it's like a cleanup of the portfolio so that we get those that are active and can be invested in to grow and generate jobs for the good people of Ghana. The table we see in here, that is improved compliance, the second category of my presentation. You can see the numbers telling the story clearly that in 2016, when government took over the reins of governance, in 2016, the first column being the year, second column being signed performance contracts, that in 2016, 6 performance contracts were signed between then SEC, State Enterprises Commission, and the state entities, only 6. So how would you oversight performance when even contracts were not being signed between the state and the entities? Only 6. But in 2017, with the president keeping his vision of turning around this public enterprise space, we had 25 of performance contracts signed. In 2018, 41. And you can see the improvement through to this year, when 73 performance contracts have been signed between SIGA and the specified entities. SIGA Act was promulgated in 2019, and you can see the improvement in what has been achieved. On the subject matter of preparation and presentation of audited accounts, I always say, if you want to check corruption in the country, keep your eyes on audited accounts of companies, because that's the only way you can see what's happening. With this government's effort on checking corruption, there has been a lot of push to get the specified entities prepare audited accounts. So in 2016, when we came to power, only 2 companies had prepared audited accounts. So how can you know what's happening in all these plethora of enterprises when audited accounts were not being prepared? But you can see the progression and the effort that has been made from 2 in 2016 and effort in 2017, 5, the following year, 44, 65, 79, and 95 audited accounts prepared. If we take the portfolio of the specified entities, like I said, I gave 2 categories, the SOEs being 53, and the OSCs, that is the other state entities, being 75. The total is 128. So at the moment where we are, is that 95 out of 128 are able to prepare audited accounts. This is good news because the more we open up preparation of audited account, the more you're able to check performance and check corruption. And preparation of unaudited accounts, as you can see on the column that follows, this is the case where account has been prepared, but as at the time of reporting, the account had not been audited. You can see the progression. 16 accounts were prepared in 2016. And I remember taking this office. I visited Ghana Publishing Corporation, which has a classical instance, where the MD there, David Asante, had to marshal all his efforts to bring his account preparation up to date, because as at the time I visited and he was telling me the story, 10 years prior, no account of the company had ever been prepared. So what went on in that enterprise called Ghana Publishing Company Limited? What went on? Nobody knows. But he prepared account and is updated to date. His accounts are up to date and audited. And we have a lot of examples of these public enterprises today. So even when you have prepared account and audited, it's better than no account at all. Because in that case, the enterprise becomes like a black box. You don't know what goes on inside. And how can you manage? How can you check? How can you give direction in terms of performance? Now, the total of the audited and unaudited account have been reported in a report called State Ownership Report. And that is the total, the column called total. So 2016 State Ownership Report reported 18 companies, and 2017 reported 49, and you can see the improvement. 77, 106, 132 in the last State Ownership Report, so far as the public enterprise portfolio is concerned. This is a very significant and encouraging improvement. Now, the best part of the story is that as a country, we have moved towards preparing what we call whole of government consolidated account. And it's an achievement. You look at the time we started, that's the last column. Look at the time we started. Under the Public Financial Management Act, Controller and Accountant General is mandated to prepare this account. And the idea is that all public funds generated, that is all sources of public funds, from the one that drops in consolidated account, internally generated funds, statutory funds, and donor funds, all these sources, as they get used across central government and local government and every use of these public funds, the country is moving towards preparing one account that will reflect all the sources of the money and all the use of the money. And in the year 2020, 19 specified entities contributed to the preparation of the account. You know, the account is being prepared for MMDAs, that is, MMDAs, that's the Metropolitan Municipal and District Assemblies, which is the local government, and then the central government, MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies, as well as the specified entities in one category. And the SIGA end, which is the contribution of the specified entities to operation of this account, we say in the year 2020, 19 companies were reported in the whole of government consolidated account. But it improved in 2021. We were able to contribute in terms of information and reports, 47 of specified entities going into the whole of government consolidated account. And the year 2022, 62. We're looking forward to even achieving more improvement this year. And I must also say, Ghana is one of the few countries in the world that is looking at preparing one whole of government consolidated account, which is an achievement by this government and must be highlighted because we want to enhance transparency. And it is a way of checking corruption. That is, wherever money is coming from, wherever it is being used, you want to put it into one account and give the public a view of where the money is coming from and where it's going. The rest of the slide, as you see, tells you the progression in illustrative or pictorial form, the graphs that follow. On the signed performance contract, you can see an upward trajectory of improvement in the signed number of performance contracts. The next audited account, you can see pictorially that we are on upward trajectory. On the preparation of unaudited account, you can still see an upward trajectory. And lastly, the entities covered in the national account, you can still see this improvement. So, on achievement so far, we go to the third category of what we've achieved so far, which is visitation to these entities to get first-hand information and through interaction with management. And sometimes I get the presence of a board member or board chair being part of the interaction. And it's been very informative and very experiential in learning so that you can contribute to solving the problems of these entities. I must say proudly that within this short piece of time, if I say short piece of time, we're talking about an appointment that occurred, I remember, in February 2021, a vetting that occurred in April, and you start work. I have visited 44 entities, 44 entities, had direct interaction with management, learned of their problems, contributed to solutions, which comes in handy, and those that require seekers' attention, documented all these solutions and forwarded them to SIGA. Those that require Minister of Finance's attention, documented them, and interactions are being made to solve them. But I must say, most of the problems are financial, capital injection, need for money, want our internally generated fund not to be capped, and working capital needed. But I have always provided one solution. I look at your mandate, I look at the capacity you have to generate revenue, and those things that you are not doing to increase revenue generation, I point them out to you that but you have opportunity to look in this direction, expand your revenue generation. Or your fee you are charging now is too low, that it doesn't even make sense for your existence and operations. So make a case for fees adjustment to reflect current costs of delivering your service. And we are working on that to be able to get the specified entities generating adequate revenue to pay for their costs of delivering the services, and for that matter, turn out profit or excess funds in terms of their expenditure. In this case, they will be able to contribute to the country's budget rather than being end users of the budget, contrary to the purpose for which some of them have been set up. Rest of the pictures, as you can see, as someone will say, my interaction after the interaction, management interaction, the pictures that were taken. Those are, but I can't show 44 pictures here. So you have a few of them. A visit to CWSA, Community Water and Sanitation Authority, Ghana Highways Authority, Data Protection Commission, Pensions, National Pensions Regulatory Authority, Precious Minerals Marketing Company, PMMC, and so on. Capacity building workshops have also been part of our effort that the boards appointed by His Excellency the President, you intend to bring a lot of awareness to their mandate and also get them sensitized to achieving results, which is what the President seeks to achieve so far as the President's vision is concerned. So capacity to perform has been one of the essential parts of what we do. In this respect, we have had capacity building workshops on corporate governance and the board, financial stewardship and accountability, legal and regulatory framework for specified entities, and public procurement for specified entities. We've also done training for corporate governance for board secretaries so that they will be able to really put their boards in good standing so far as their meetings are concerned. We've also had interactions with stakeholders. Stakeholders, the state itself, boards, and chief executives, and so on. And this stakeholder fora, have provided interaction between my outfit, SIGA, Ministry of Finance, Public Investment and Asset Division, as well as all parties having stakes in ensuring that the public enterprises deliver good performance to our expectation. On the way forward, there's still a bit more to do. The Public Enterprise League Table has been formulated. I want to sometimes use the word designed to bring competition among the public enterprises so that you have an implicit competition or inherent competition among their own performance. That as a chief executive or board, you want to see your enterprise doing better than the other enterprise. So this has been designed, maiden edition published for a set of 50 companies or entities that had their data available, and it's based on the performance contracts that is signed. A technical team is available that ranked them. You know the effect of ranking. When you are put in a context of first, second, third, fourth, and then last, nobody wants to be the last, so far as performance ranking is concerned. So, but it also affords me the opportunity to know those that are not doing well so that you can focus effort on them. And then those that are doing well, you can encourage them to do better. This has been published, and you can see the publication of the Public Enterprise, the maiden edition. You can see the publication on SIGA's website. Going forward, my effort and if I say my effort, I'm talking for a team comprising the lean staff I have in my secretariat. We're not more than 11. It's like a football team. Myself leading them. Very lean staff. Everything that we've done, we just 11. And SIGA, which also need more hands because of the portfolio size they handle and the variation in the different end industries they have to oversight, from oil and gas to housing to alcohol. I wonder how they even oversight alcohol business. But the variation in the industry is so diverse that also comes with its own capacity requirement for them to do effective work. But going forward, I say we are aiming at further improvement in the compliance because we want to achieve total compliance. We haven't gotten there because, like I said, out of the 128, we're at up to 95, opening up in accounting that we desire. And then, if you look at the portfolio, I've said 17 defunct, 175 active on SIGA register. The next step is what I'll say, you want to zero in into the enterprises individually and require turnaround from those that are making losses. Give us a turnaround plan to turn around the loss making into a profitability. And this is something that is going to require my attention as we go into the entities individually. And also to bring parliamentary oversight. We've started. I wrote to Parliament. We started invoking the oversight powers of Parliament. That is Committee on Employment, Social Welfare and State Enterprises. This is a parliamentary select committee. I am in touch with them and invoking the oversight powers also on the specified entities. So what SIGA is doing, Parliament is also on that side, also inviting the enterprises to account. But you have to go to Parliament with audited accounts. And so this twin effort of oversight effort is really yielding a speedy compliance for us. So I'm going to intensify that and get a lot of compliance results from the specified entities. And there are policies that have been drawn up, and all of them requiring cabinet approval. At the moment, as I speak, I know some have been approved, and even today, cabinet meeting, one of the last among 4 policies that are before cabinet will be approved today. These policies are restructuring of the state equity portfolio, performance management framework, state ownership policy, and the sale of the defunct entities. Once these some have been approved, some are to be approved. When approved, their implementation is the next stage. And that's an activity for us going forward. And then there is an overarching government policy of trying to digitalize government enterprises. In fact, digitalization in this context for public enterprises would mean if I want to access services of DVLA, because it is digitalized, I can stay in Northern Region and still renew my license without necessarily physically going there. Some are able to stand wherever corner they are and even renew their health insurance card. It's because the operations are digitalized. All we're trying to do in here is that because this government has a focus on digitalizing, creating a digitalized economy where technology is deployed in every aspect and facet of our lives, the public enterprises which provide critical services to the private sector have to act very fast in their service delivery to the private sector. So that, look at Registrar General's department also doing something similar, so that if you're registering company, just go online, provide information within a short time. Company is registered. These things are necessary for the private sector to also take and contribute to development of the country. So we are pushing the public enterprises to digitalize. There is a risk that is emerging. And once you digitalize your operation, it comes as a matter of course that you expose your operations to revenue leakage risk, because the fraudsters and cybersecurity crime comes up If you recall, recently the Central Bank, Bank of Ghana, had to implement a cybersecurity center to check these fraudulent acts being meted out on banks. Similarly, the state enterprises or the public enterprises, those that face that risk, in collaboration with Cybersecurity Authority and related agencies, we're looking at how to insulate the public enterprises so that as they digitalize, we won't have hackers and these fraudsters diverting their revenue service sources or replicating their services and how do I put it, stealing their revenues. So that is something that is engaging my attention now with my team to look at. In conclusion, I must say specified entities will continue to play a significant role in the economy, and opportunities exist for them to expand, grow, and contribute to the national development effort. We at the Public Enterprise Secretariat, oversighting SIGA, and SIGA doing what they do best, together with our collaboration with Public Investment and Asset Division of the Ministry of Finance, are poised to continue to deliver these good performance for the public sector so that they can contribute significantly to Ghana's economy rather than being a liability to us, as has characterized them in the past. Thank you.
Honorable Minister, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. I was just reflecting on a particular conversation that I chanced upon on one of the TV platforms. Sometimes people have the tendency to have conversations about privatization of SOEs or JVCs or stuff like that, government owned entities. And they'll say that, we don't even have any public enterprises in the name of the country. But clearly, it is only because some of these invaluable resources, information are not out there to the public. Because only if they knew, then they would appreciate the kind of work that is being done by the Public Enterprises Secretariat under Honorable Minister's leadership. It was also, I was happy to note that Minister mentioned that as at 2016, only 2 SOEs had audited accounts, and today we are talking of at least 95 SOEs. And if you are talking about a team that has nothing to hide, that should be your team. That should be President Akufo-Addo's team, because it would have been easier to say that the legacy is that they don't even have audited accounts of SOEs. So let's continue on that tangent. But you took it upon yourself to ensure that there is supervision, there is transparency, there is accountability, there is digitalization, and especially now that we have in force an RTI law where individuals, citizens, can even write to these SOEs and JVCs where necessary and say, we are requesting for information with regards to your operations. That is really something that we have to commend. And I would like to use the opportunity to thank you, Honorable Minister, for that exemplary leadership at the Public Enterprises Secretariat. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, we will invite your questions. If you have any question, kindly show by hand. We'll bring the microphone to you and you mention your name, affiliation, and then proceed to ask your question.
Yeah. Good morning, Honorable Minister. My name is Nana Poko from Daily Searchlight. The last time I met you at the old castle, you did mention that you were going to institute a league table for state enterprises. So far, we don't know what has happened. And we want to know those who are making it, those who are breaking even, and those who are making losses, so that the country wants to know, so that we can buy into your idea of disposing some of them off. My second question, Honorable Minister, can't we revitalize some of these state enterprises that we call defunct? If my memory serves me right, an enterprise like Ghana Food Distribution Corporation played a yeoman's role in 1983 when the country faced a near famine problem. Those times, you could walk to their depot and buy some maize, some rice, some yam, and other things, and some cereals. And in fact, it was very important for the survival of the Ghanaian at that time. So can't we revitalize them so that they can serve that purpose? Because now we all know that food prices are very astronomical in this country, and people are always complaining. And an agency like National Procurement Agency, I don't know its status now, because also play a yeoman's role, because it used to import some food items like rice, sugar, and other things to sell to the Ghanaian community. And in fact, it was very moderate as against individual or private sellers. What can we do to some of these institutions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is John Awuni Kesben. Pictorially, you showed us some dilapidated state properties that needs to be disposed of. One of them was the Aboso and then the Bolgatanga Meat Factory, Bangalore. But there's this recent report in the media space about New Times Corporation, the producers of Ghanaian Times, about the company leasing 2/3 of its assets to a foreigner or a foreign partner for $220,000 for 25 years. And there are agitations that based on the prime situation of Ghanaian Times or New Times Corporation, it should have attracted $60,000 a year, which could have come up to $1.5 million instead of a meager $8,800 for a year for that 25-year period, which is $220,000. I don't know if SIGA, through your ministry, is aware of this and what can be done about this phenomenon. Thank you.
Thank you for the questions. Okay, I take that to be the last question since we don't have any hands. Okay, please.
My name is Emilia Enin Abe. I write for the Daily Graphic. Honorable, please, I'll be happy if you can tell us if there is a time frame for the plan to liquidate or dispose these defunct companies. And you mentioned 17 of them. I'll be happy if you can give us the list of the names of all of them to help us with that. Thank you.
Okay. Then I will invite Honorable Minister for his responses and also concluding remarks.
Okay, thank you for the questions. First, the Searchlight rep here. When it comes to the PELT, Public Enterprises League Table, you're right. I met you in the office and said we're going to do it. In my presentation, I told you we've done it. I told you the maiden edition has been published, and you can see it on SIGA's website. Okay. The second edition, come on, it's on the screen here. The second, you can get the list, the ranking, on the website. The second edition is even being prepared for publication, and soon it will be released. On revitalization of the defunct entities, most of the time, this is the usual sentiment Ghanaians have, and this has made it impossible for government in the past to take rational or reasonable corporate decisions. You look at these assets, you look at them, when you say revitalization of these entities, what do you really mean? That government should collect taxes and go and revitalize them? What service do they provide? Take them one in 10. Ghana Food Distribution, they go around the country buying food. Isn't the Makola women using their private capital, buying food and selling food? That time you were talking about, I was also aware of that time. We didn't have private capital in food distribution. Are you sure the state, giving the roads in front of your house, when the state has money, it should go into buying food and share, or it should use it to do the roads? That is use of capital. The health service delivery facilities, hospitals, when the state is having money, that capital, should it use it in revamping the hospitals and improve health service delivery? Or it should give to Ghana Food Distribution Company, Ghanaians, a set of Ghanaians, to go and into the villages and buy food, and even if they bought it at 100 Ghana cedis, go and issue invoices that they bought it for 1,000 Ghana cedis. If you don't know Ghanaians, I'm telling you. So we're talking about optimal use of resources. Look at your schools. A country that is talking about schools where we haven't developed all the schools to the standard we want. If the state has capital, yours is that we should give it to a certain company to go and buy food and distribute. These are corporate decisions. When you have money in excess, you can afford to do that. If you don't have the money, any country leverage or take advantage of private capital. The private people are doing that. They are doing that, and they are doing that effectively. If you look at the private capital that is going round to move food across production centers to market centers, you will be surprised that Ghana government will never get sufficient capital to do that. Or you want us to increase taxes to do that? Those are optional decisions you can guide. Sugar, Ghana National Procurement Agency. Personally, I cannot imagine that the state set up a certain company that when you go in there, all that they do is they buy. And they buy for who? Buy for the public. Now they have collapsed it. If I say they have collapsed it, when you go and interact with them, they tell you that they are even unable to compete with the private sector. Because the same item that company will buy, I can tell you Melcom can go to the same source and buy cheaper. Are you getting my point? The reason why you see private enterprises flourish and state enterprises go down is that even procurement prices, when you compare with private sector, you see that the private sector yourself procure at more competitive prices than the state. So it's not, for me, surprising that Ghana National Procurement Agency wasn't able to compete and survive. So let's keep that in mind, that use of capital. Ghana is not a country that has excess capital after doing it, hospitals, schools, roads, and so on, can do lofty investment of capital, as you see. Disposal. New Times Corporation leasing its assets at, how do I put it, uncompetitive rate. So that's how I wish the first person who asked about why can't we revitalize the specified entities is the same person asking the second one. I wish it is the same, but I've seen those contradictions. But since it came from the public, from us, you look at the state leasing assets, and then you are drawing my attention to that it could have been done better. That is to say, done competitively. You are making a case that the private sector would have gotten more money from the same asset than the state leasing the same asset. So what case are you making for us to revitalize state enterprises? When they have asset to lease, they even lease at cheaper price. That's a question you and I should answer. Are you getting me? My understanding is that when they are buying, they buy expensive. When they are selling, they sell cheap. And end of the day, create these outcomes. End of the day. Let me draw your attention to what has happened in this market, which all of us are aware of, because I've followed keenly. There's a telecommunication center that's the mobile telephony center. When it was emerging, the state had participation in it, and the private sector enterprise had participation in that sector. Today, where is the state enterprise? Go track the history and look at what it has become. And look at the private sector enterprise, what it has become. There's the oil marketing segment company, downstream. The Total, the Shells, and the GOIL, which belonged to the state. I dare say that if GOIL had not been floated on the stock market, for private investors to come in, if private investors like myself and yourself to buy shares, and exact accountability from them, GOIL assets may be like this. But today they are in the market, operating competently, because private hands are in it. That the board and management of GOIL are operating to please private shareholders, at the same time, the state. GCB Bank was Ghana Commercial Bank. And I remember almost every year, they were crying for capital injection by the state. When the state went in to list it on the stock market and change the name from Ghana Commercial Bank to GCB Bank, today, it's one of the most interesting investments anybody can have shares of. There are the counterparts. The counterpart, Bank for Housing and Construction. If you can go to the asset and show me the bank, I'll be happy. There's the counterpart. Apart from Bank for Housing and Construction, there was another bank we collapsed safely. National Investment Bank is struggling. Do you understand? It is up to us to come to realistic terms that when Ghanaians are given a mandate to manage a state asset, the mindset is different from when they are managing their own asset. And when you realize that is the case, I can give you several examples. SIC was State Insurance Company until it was reorganized as SIC Company Limited. And today it exists to deliver business. It was going down. Every sector of the economy, the state was having an enterprise, which today has been successfully collapsed. So, let me give you, we will be here and we will see in the oil refinery sector, private enterprise come to flourish and the state enterprise struggling and making headlines every day. We'll be here, you mark my words, because resource allocation by private sector is better, more optimal. We say more optimal than resource allocation by public sector. And that's why some in the industries, you want the private sector to take the lead. Okay, I can go on, and I think we should be able to take a cue and minimize the sensitivities and sentimental feelings that is attached to state assets, that they can in private hands, they can be better managed. And if it's a business, let it be managed by the state. If it's public goods and service, health, education, roads, and so on, that one, if you give to private sector, we are dead. Are you getting me? We are dead. So we should understand these two dynamics. Emilia from Graphic, you wanted, these are some of the defunct entities. Come again. Timeline. Because of the processes involved in the disposal, valuation, you have to value. And you see, advertise, value, and so on. Difficult to give exact timeline, but I believe it's unfolding. Cabinet has approved implementation of the processes will follow transparently. And so I believe that within few months to come, we'll see activity on them. Thank you. The list of the defunct entities. Okay. You can give it to you. Okay. Thank you.
Honorable Minister, we are most grateful for your presence and that rich conversation that you have led us through. I believe all our friends from the media who are here have picked something that they will help us with dissemination so that we can improve public enterprises portfolio. So on that note, I would like to express on behalf of my minister, management, and staff our profound gratitude to you for coming here today. And to our friends, thank you so much for making time for this important exercise. And it is my prayer that you will help us send the information out there and help us educate the public. To all our guests, thank you so much for coming here today. Good afternoon.